Stick to it. Don't give up. It's a long tail. It's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to be an overnight success in over 10 years.
What happens when a network treats podcasting not as a collection of quote-unquote content, but as an art of storytelling, where every show, ad, and even survey is about crafting memorable experiences? Why does my guest today get hung up on refusing to call carefully crafted audio content in the first place? If you're used to hearing about networks as content machines driven by ad models and inventory counts, this approach might sound unfamiliar. Even in podcasting's creative circles, few operators draw such a sharp line between pure content and a richer, multidimensional narrative strategy that turns each podcast into a full-blown story universe. My guest today is Jeremy Westphal. He's been on both sides, launching audio projects inside major brands like Comedy Central and Nickelodeon, and now guiding GZM, a 10-year-old network defined by its commitment to original scripted fiction for kids, families, and young adults. His path moved from being, quote unquote, a big nerd comedy fan to wearing nearly every operational hat, always with an eye on how stories, not just media, shape both audience and business. I'm Greg Wasserman, host of this amazing show, Podcast Network Insights. I've spent 15 years in advertising sales, and since 2021, I've been immersed in the podcast industry. So I believe life is about time and relationships. You never know where one conversation may lead. I've built a lot of relationships and spent a lot of time with every kind of podcaster, from solo creators just getting started to the heads of industry-leading networks like my conversation here with Jeremy. If you've ever wondered whether joining a network makes sense, how these networks actually run, other networks you could explore joining, advertising with, partnering with, learning from, then my goal is to give you a real look behind the scenes so you can confidently navigate whether you host, produce, sponsor, or run a network. As you listen to this conversation with Jeremy, I know you'll have your own ideas, but think about how he talks about story at every turn. Challenging industry labels, obsessing over curation, pushing for brand moves like GZM and GZM Junior sublabels, all to ensure the network is known for storytelling, not just output. If you care about turning audio into something lasting, not just filling a feed, his approach will reframe what a network can be. Before we jump into that conversation with Jeremy, I have to acknowledge the companies that make this show possible. The show is produced by the incredible team at Stories and Strategies. If you don't know them, I suggest you reach out and learn what they do. I'm using RSS.com for podcast hosting because, as many don't realize, podcast hosting is more than just storage. RSS.com provides so many features to ensure a great podcast experience, easy to use, maximum distribution, a community to learn from, monetization solutions, and so much more. Systems and processes are key for the consistency needed in podcasting, which is why I use Northflow, a dedicated podcast management platform built by podcasters for podcasters. Content repurposing is a huge piece of podcasting. Turning these conversations into hundreds of pieces of content is why I rely on Cast Magic for that content repurposing, guest assets, and more. Lastly, I want you to make sure you stay after the interview, as there's more to this conversation. And no, it's not to get you to subscribe to my show on your favorite platform and leave a review. Though let's be honest, if you're listening to this, you already know you should do that, and I appreciate if you do. And no, it's not to encourage you to sign up for my newsletter and discover more podcasts, because podcast discovery is really difficult. And that's why every Monday on LinkedIn, I promote 3 podcasts I think people should listen to. With all that said, let's get into this conversation with Jeremy. Jeremy, the show's called Podcast Network Insights. I always want to ask the person that's coming on, when you hear the word podcast networks, what comes to mind?
Okay. As a listener, I think about community. I think about consistency. I think about curation. I think about how this is the entry point to something that I really like. Let's look at Earwolf. That was guaranteed great comedy. Let's just take a step back. the networks of old, TV networks. You watch Comedy Central, you're going to watch something that's funny. You watch the Disney Channel, you're going to watch something family friendly. You watch BBC, you are going to watch something British. There is a level of curation. There is a taste maker. There is also the community, because, if you love comedy, you talk to other people who love comedy, they talk about Comedy Central. If you love people who are Anglophiles and they love Doctor Who or Upstairs, Downstairs, they watch the BBC. And so there are so many opportunities from the outside as a fan to find something you love by trusting a network that brings you quality, good entertainment. But from the inside, I've been lucky enough to work on the inside of several networks. And so I know the institution, I know the mechanics, I know that a network is sort of the glue and the systems that hold it all together to grow it as a business, to grow it as a community, and to grow it as a media opportunity.
I love that you're the first person, and this is why I love asking the question, that gave the answer from the listener standpoint before you gave it from the network operator standpoint. And both of those you used the word community from. And I would not think of, from the listening standpoint, community would be a word I would use to describe a network. But the way you did, it works really well.
I was a big nerd. I was a big nerd who loved comedy. And I'm constantly trying to find different people who love what I love. And so finding people who want to consume the same shows or listen to the same podcasts or, enjoy the same records I love. That's the community and the connection that I'm always looking for.
So on that point, being a big nerd and working for the big studios, how did you get into podcasting?
Okay, here's my origin story. As a fan, I listened to a lot of the Earwolf podcasts, the ones with Scott Aukerman, the ones with Paul F. Tompkins, and it was just about comedy curation, word of mouth. They said, this is funny. Listen to this. Listened to it, thought it was really funny. But then from the inside, I started working at Comedy Central, and they were doing things for record labels, DVDs, radio. I worked for their ancillary company, and I was producing albums for Comedy Central Records and helping them with Comedy Central Radio and Sirius XM. Then one day the network, Comedy Central Network, said, we want to make podcasts. And I knew a bunch of comedians who made podcasts. I knew a bunch of independent journalists who made podcasts through Gimlet the Day. And I talked to them about what they did, how they produced it, how they wrote it, how they cared for the fans that listened to them, how they worked with the advertisers, how they worked with marketing. And from the inside of Comedy Central, I helped create the Comedy Central Podcast Network. And then the conglomerate company, Viacom at the day, now Paramount, said, great, now do that for MTV. Now do that for Nickelodeon. Now do that for CBS. And so I helped and worked for multiple networks under that company, making podcasts and wearing multiple hats along the way.
So having started, I don't know, I guess, 10 plus years ago,
Yeah.
you would say? Yeah. So over 10 years ago, at least in the podcast side, I mean, you've been in the production side for entertainment outside of audio for a while. But you've worked for a lot of the big guys. And now you're at Gen Z, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I would consider it more of an independent and potentially becomes the next Viacom acquisition, or I guess Paramount acquisition, right? But
I actually went to Gen Z after I left Paramount. I had some time making podcasts for Nickelodeon. And when I was with Nickelodeon making podcasts for them, one of the shows I helped with in a marketing sense, in a production sense, just wearing multiple hats, advising their executives, their creators, their writers One of the podcasts I worked on was their Blues Clues podcast. And I had a 5-year-old at the time who I used as, he was my market. So he watched their YouTube, he watched their TV show, and I would have him listen to ideas and I would run things by him. The podcast launched, it did great. It's still doing great, I think, even though there's no more new episodes. And my son saw a commercial on Nickelodeon promoting the Blues Clues podcast. And he saw it and he jumped up and down and he said, Daddy, 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 they love your podcast so much, they put it on TV. And it melted my heart. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I helped put that commercial on TV, that I helped write the script, I helped make the connections, I helped sort of make the inner network connections to make sure that all the inter departments were talking to get things done. But that really made me realize how much podcasting can move younger audiences and family audiences. And so when it was time for me to leave Paramount, I actually went to GZM, wrote them a letter, said, I've been a fan of your podcast for a very long time. My family and I listen to your things. I'd love to help you out. Here are all the hats I've worn: production, ad sales, partnerships, marketing, business development, whatever. If any of these hats can help you out, please let me know. And they wrote me back. We talked, and I've been with them for 2.5 years ever since. And they have been a fantastic independent network. They recently had left Wondery before Wondery shut down and changed to go independent, and they wanted to sort of make a go of it. And I've been helping them ever since.
All right. So you've worked for the big ones. You've worked for you've started a network that gets acquired by a bigger network in a sense. You've gone down the route here where Wondery was a big network and now you've gone independent. What are you learning from all these different avenues of different ways that network operates? And how are you thinking about, actually, no, we'll just leave that and start there.
So clarify the question. What do I think about networks or?
No, how do you think about how you're creating these networks? Each one, is it each one the same? Are you operating them all differently? How you think about Comedy Central as a TV channel that gets acquired by Viacom. Gen Z, which is originally part of Wondery, which gets acquired and it's part of Amazon. So all of them have very much corporate hats. And now you're not corporate, but do you keep the corporate?
No,
and
I think
the revenue models are very different. The production's all different.
Yep. Well, I've been lucky enough to work for, like you said, networks that were corporate, Comedy Central. I've had partnerships, like GZM had a partnership with Wondery, and then Wondery got bought into by Audible. GZM is an independent company. They have a network of 30 plus shows. Some of them are partners, like with Earth Rangers. It's a nonprofit up in Canada, but for the most part, all of it is owned and operated by GZM. So it's similar to the model that Comedy Central had, but on a smaller independent scale. Comedy Central had a lot of licensed shows, but most of it was owned and operated in, Comedy Central. Or MTV or Nickelodeon. Granted, there are some examples that Nickelodeon had shows that weren't owned by them, like Spin Master or Peppa Pig or even Bluey for that matter. But the networks themselves were the business model. And having worked for several different networks and several different business models, I think earlier in my career, I saw how important the 360 viewpoint was for the art, the media, whether it be video, audio, vinyl, radio, podcasting, making sure that there is an understanding of the audience that you seek to serve and knowing where they are and knowing what they like, and that you can, through means of marketing, through means of ad sales, through means of production, build a business around them. Comedy Central has had TV, they've had movies, they've had social. Nickelodeon has toys, they have merchandising, they have movies, they have video games. GZM, independent network, is also understanding that it needs to be looking at things from a brand perspective. It's not just like, it's not a podcasting network. It's a brand, and it's something that they're trying to create stories for, and then partner with, like they have made a TV show for Disney from The Big Fib. They've got different deals, and they've got different books from a series called Mars Patel. They've got books from Finn Caspian. They're making smaller videos on YouTube now for one of their podcasts called Do Good Detectives. They understand that it's not a podcasting company. It's a network of stories, and those stories can live on through video, through visual, through reading, even through the social interaction, through their newsletter, through merchandise. And they really do try to curate and care for the community and fans that they've helped build. And so it's very similar to like what, the other networks I've worked for have done as well. It's sort of just a very sensible 360 business model.
It's a media company at its core. But if I think about some of those others that you've worked for, when I think about them, I look at it as the ad model, right? Yep. It's very much like sponsorships, spots and dots in that core.
Yep.
Is GZM, I mean, what you just described is licensing and production and whole 360. You're looking at it then very different from what you've been doing in your past, or no?
I think I've been lucky. I worked on a record label, Comedy Central Records. I worked with Sirius XM for Comedy Central Radio. I helped with podcasting across all of the networks I mentioned earlier. And I took every little bit of business learning from each of those experiences and brought them here. Right now I'm helping GZM with their partnerships with advertising and ad sales. I'm helping them with partnerships for distribution. I'm helping them with partnerships looking for, title sponsors, helping them with audience growth, because, if I get an ad sales deal, I want to make sure that I keep the audience growth going for that. But yeah, it's interesting and fun, and I like to wear multiple hats. Here at GZM, it's very possible because it's, a smaller company, and they allow me to sort of lean in and do a lot.
I mean, look, that's what I love about we've both done the corporate route. We've both been at the CBS world, so we both can speak to being part of a big company.
You were at CBS Radio.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So when you think about the 35 shows, but also the shows that you've got through all the other networks you've run, as you said, most of them were owned and operated. Some were licensed. So someone's not coming to you and looking, and anyone that's listening saying, hey, if I want to join the GZM network, what would I? And you're like, we're owned and operated, so it'd be more of an idea and it'd be an original idea that we create as opposed to joining us. That's a hard one. If we think about how many of the networks have shut down, how hard is it in these day and age to do the original content, the scale it, get the audience, sell it, basically what you guys are doing there without, with the name.
Well, I do say GZM's been very lucky. They've been around. This is their 10-year anniversary. And also they are a niche of a niche. They create scripted audio. Like, most people think of podcasting as, talking chat casts or news or documentaries or sports. But GZM is sort of a niche medium where it's primarily fiction podcasts. It's basically movies or TV shows without the cameras. But they also have a lot of younger audiences for some of their younger shows, for game shows or their environmental shows, like I mentioned, Earth Rangers. And so Right now, I'm working for a company that is a niche, sometimes a niche of a niche, because it's kids and family or young adult scripted fiction. And so the fact that this company, this GZM company, has been around for 10 years, been making niche content for so long and continues to do it is just a testament to, one, the quality of content that they're making. It's great. Their first show, Mars Patel, won a Peabody. They're winning awards constantly. They won Signal Awards for their big show, 6 Minutes, last year. And so, yeah, they did a partnership with multiple. They made a bunch of shows for Chick-fil-A last year. They made, they're constantly coming out with new shows, but they are able to work with outside creators. And as long as there's a level of ownership staying with GZM, they're very open to new ideas and collaborating with new creators. But again, they've been curating this audience for 10 years. And so they're very protective of the families that they've been giving content to for years. God, I hate the word content. I apologize. They've been giving such good stories, like they're like the Pixar of podcasts. They're like the Amblin of audio. And so these stories are really good and important to the creators here.
So if you guys are doing scripted fiction, and we look at just that as a genre within podcasting, which is difficult. You joke, like most people think about podcasting as talking heads, which is what we're all thinking about right now. And that's why we have all the jokes about like, oh, another talking head podcast, but no one's actually saying a talking head. But like the joys of podcasting is you can create that audio storytelling without the visual necessary when everyone's going down, oh, I need a YouTube, I need video, I need video, I need video.
Yep.
But scripted fiction's still tough. So how do you guys do it? How is it that you are able to create a network? And where do you see that in the current space of where podcasting is?
I think it's a white space. It's not something that is easily doable, produced. You have to write it. You have to cast it. You're working with SAG, you're working with AFTRA. You need really great sound design. You need really good vision. You need really good trust and distribution. You need really good partnerships so that you can guarantee getting an audience, so you can get growth and lift and awareness. And so it's not easy. And the fact that this team came in, like I said, 10 years ago and hit it out of the park with their first show really sort of set the bar. And it's and honestly, it's very hard when they set the bar so high, so early to continue doing it. So it's not easy. It's definitely harder than just any like regular podcast where you just get a microphone, get somebody and talk to them. It needs to be incredibly intentional and purposeful and planned out.
And it's far cheaper than doing a scripted TV show, but you're still putting, as you said, actors. So I got to go hire a production. I've got to hire that. Your salary, right? It's like, how many hats can I wear in here? And
I can speak to what I work on, which is, the ad sales, the creative services, some marketing, some audience growth. The production is top notch here. The writing is great. The casting and acting is great. The sound design is fantastic. Oh boy. Like when I work on just some of the ads that we make here, the engineers are just a delight. I'll give them the worst notes. Like make this sound like this. And then they come back with wonderfully soundscaped ads. And it's like, this is just great. Like sometimes it's just music, sometimes it's sound effects, sometimes it's an entire world where the actor is walking into a room and you can hear the footsteps, you can hear a cat meowing in the background, you can hear the wind outside, and it's a delight to work with so creative a bunch of people.
So since you do the sales, you're trying to sell a show before it's even really produced. And I have to imagine.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. You guys will just release a show and you're like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Well, a lot of times we have one show that's been going on for years and years. It's in its fifth season. It's going to continue, and it gets over 1 million downloads a month. It's a weekly series, and I am able to help grow the, I guess, revenue because of the trackable downloads. You know, like we have the audience, and so I can actually like speak to that audience. They've had 10 years to curate, and so I can speak to the audience through listener surveys, and I can say, hey, we want to make things better for you. What do you like? Tell us what you like. We'll go get them. And then I can find out like, okay, this is the type of people who listen. This is the type of people who respond. We get a huge response from them. We had a survey in February. We got over 600 people responding. Like that's a great response rate for a survey, especially for a listener-based survey where it's just in podcast ads, where there's already podcast ads. And so I'm really proud of that. And it shows the responsiveness and it shows the trust that I'm given as an individual, but also the trust I'm given as a fan. Because I was a fan of this network. I was a fan of these shows before I got to work for them. I'm also a parent. I have 2 kids. My spouse also works in education. And that's like, through the surveys, I found out that that's actually the 3 pillars of the listenership that we have. We have people who work in education, we have adults with kids, and we have kids and families. And so through confirmation bias, through luck, through data, I'm able to find out that I am not only a fan, but I also represent a big chunk of the audience. And I take that responsibility seriously. And so I want to make sure that I'm creating a good ad experience for anyone who's listening, like me.
So you've mentioned survey. You're the first person that's come on that's talked about the value of surveying. So how do you guys go about and survey the users, not only to expand what you need for an existing show, but to help you guys launch a new show?
I try to, read up on Edison. I, listen to and read all the reports from Sounds Profitable. I pay attention to every survey I listen to or hear or engage in podcasting. And I take those surveys and I actually screen grab all the questions so that I can see like which ones really were unique, move the needle, and insightful. And then I just sort of keep a log. And I've taken all the best questions of every survey I've ever worked with, and I've, taken the best elements from them. Edison has some fantastic, boilerplate surveys. Do you want this information? Then ask these questions. And so we've really been able to take the best of what we've found and then take it a step further and talk to the partners I work with and say, what questions do you wish people would ask? And then I make sure to put them inside the survey as well. So we can find out on top of the regular demographics, the gender, the money, the occupation, things that can help bring in good partnerships, ad sales, but also make better experiences for the partners, for the listeners, for the podcasts.
Where are you running these surveys? Is it email based, or you're running an audio ad, driving people to a website,
running
or
an
all the
ad
above?
in the podcast? Hey, you matter to us. We'd love to make things better for you. Please take our survey. Go to this website. Take a survey. And then they take a survey. We gather everything with Google data, and then we look at the numbers and cough them back out and share them with people, but not in like a bad way. Like it's all anonymous. We don't track anything. It's just like, oh, thank you. Thank you for your help, and we will make things better for you.
There you go. The joys, the value of a network at the scale you can. I mean, everyone can do this as a solo, but as a network operator, like, hey, by being part of a network, hopefully the network operator is looking at how do we use data? How do we better inform not only our users with our content, but also the advertisers so that we can charge them more, charge higher CPMs and whatever value you may want. Yeah.
But also, how can we help make things better? How can we help make things suck less. Like that's like the ultimate goal I'm trying to do is how do I make things better? How do I make our partners' jobs easier? How do I make the needle actually move and matter? How do I make people not want to skip our ads? How do I make our audience, not hate what they're listening to and want to listen to something different? How do I make our podcasts sound better? How do I help curate and care for the community? How do I keep things consistent? How do I add to the curation we've got? That's it.
I mean, it's one of those where it's like, hey, it sounds really easy, but not everyone is doing that. I mean, I can't imagine how many people are with a fine comb going through all the surveys as you are while doing all the different hats you've got to curate better content. I mean, that puts a different level of an operation of a network out there.
I mean, very unique because I was a listener first. I was very unique in that I have a family that I listen to these programs with. And so I have to wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm a dad who was lucky enough to work in a place that is all about family content, audio. God, I hate the word content. I'm sorry. Because it's better than content. It's like, do you call like the Mona Lisa content? Like, yeah, it's content, but it's also art, but does the Mona Lisa bring in like tons of revenue? Yes, but it's also art that's moving. It tells a story. It tells you something. And so I'm very lucky that I get to work in a business where art and commerce is sort of shaking hands, and I'm able to like be a part of a lot of these like amazing stories. And yeah, so yeah. I'm going to catch myself. I'm going to correct myself because it's so much more than just content. Like it's really great stories.
It's in a sense, it's story through whatever medium you decide. And the core of it is the stories being told through audio. But as you already listed, you put those out in books, you put those into, license them into a TV show. So it's storytelling across different mediums that stems from podcasting.
Yeah. And to be fair, that's GZM. They made those books before I was a part of their network. They made those deals before I was part of the network. I'm just lucky enough to be here for the past year and a half to help get our shows on Yoto, to help get our shows in different places that they haven't been yet. And I'm just happy to bring them to people who, really like listening to great audio adventures.
So run with that one. Where else should network operators be thinking about putting their content? Yoto's, of course, family and kids. So like 90% of people that probably listen to this and B are out there would have that as an option. But like, where else should people be thinking about putting their content? Their storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, like people are, I guess, I have a very unique perspective. I'm audience first. Know your audience. Know what you're making. Know who you're making it for, and then know where they are. And so if you're making great podcasts, and if you've got a network of great podcasts, okay, do those podcasts have a video element? Great. How can you help get to people that love the subject that you're talking about, or the stories you're trying to tell, or the point you're trying to make? Where are they? And so knowing who you're trying to reach, the message you're trying to give, that message, that art can be across any media, so go where... for us, where are the families listening to audio? Where are people listening to scripted fiction? Where are people listening to any sort of audio with the family? So that's Yoto. That's where a lot of kids and family are listening to, things on Audible. That's where people listen to a lot of audiobooks and scripted fiction. But people still listen to audio on the radio. People will still listen to audio on AM. People listen to audio on demand in every podcast app. But now people are also watching podcasts as YouTube. And so we've, made one of our first animated podcasts through Do Good Detectives, where I was lucky enough to work with an animator friend of mine who used to work animation at a very popular TV show. And he animated these quick little videos for us, and just very simple, small animation, but it's cute and it's authentic and it's easy and it complements the audio. So it's not a cartoon, because that's what it would be. There would be cartoons or like action adventures, like, Star Wars. It's just a Star Wars cartoon if you're not filming it.
What about fast channels, or
Absolutely.
you mentioned radio? So you're looking at all different avenues. Is that an easy thing for?
No, it's incredibly hard. Where else do people listen to audio? They listen to audio. Well, I've heard podcasts on the tram at the local zoo. I've heard podcasts on an airplane. Like, where can they be? They should be everywhere it makes sense. Put them in the museum near an exhibit. If it's about a specific topic, if it's about a thing where people are interested, put it there, make it there, bring it to them. But it's hard to find where they could go. And it's all about like creating a network so that you can help bring a lot of things. It's scale. When you have enough, you can bring someone a real gift and package it to them. We're also working with another company in Georgia that's creating radio for people with, different seeing and hearing needs. And so we were able to partner with them and give them our number one show, 6 minutes, so that we can give it to people who, are visually unable to sort of see things. And so we're giving audio to people who are blind, and that's great. And that's a very specific niche medium. And we were able to help provide something to them. And I'm not the one who started that. I'm not the one who did that, but I helped a piece along the way. And that's really great. Yeah. So wherever you are, just know your audience first so that you can go there authentically. And, knowing the audience you seek to serve, like if you're serving them properly, you can, hang your head proud.
I think that for anyone that's listening that runs a network, or the those of you that have a podcast, I think what you're saying, Jeremy, is key, because thinking outside of the box, as we know, discovery is tough. So what you just described, regardless, network operator or solo podcaster, know your audience, go find them. And it's not necessarily just on, a listening platform. I love how you're looking like, okay, museums, like where could I go? Where would this make sense? Now, as a network operator, as you said, it's scale. So the scale allows you the actual room to have that conversation.
Yeah.
It's like if I were to cold call, a museum going, hey, here's Greg, I got this kid's show. They'd be like, I don't have time for you per se. Or it's like, this sounds great, but they'll probably want to know, do you have an audience or their downloads? Because they're not taking that risk on it. So now being part of a network, you're hopefully able to have those conversations. So that's huge.
Having a network, having the scale, having the numbers is incredibly helpful. GZM has a lot of awards. They've gotten that through being here for a long time, but they also have the volume of awards because they have so many shows. Having the scale of a network helps with growth and awareness so that you can talk to other shows or other platforms to help with promotion or awareness or marketing, so that, people will want to market you because you can help market them, and it helps with growth both ways. But knowing your audience, knowing who you want to talk to, who you want to share with clearly, and then just go to where they are and then say, do you like this? And then they say yes, and then it's great.
So what advice would you give to a listener here who only has a fiction podcast? They're like, I can't join your network. I'm not joining the Viacom network. Like, what do I do? How do I compete in this attention space when I don't have that scale like a network like you have?
Find your audience, find other fiction podcasters, talk to them, collaborate with them. Become a network of friends and creators. Maybe you're not a part of a huge network of tons of shows, but what if you have one other friend and then your network of two, and then you find a third, and you start a network of three. And so you create a different type of network, an independent network of creators. What if you find a network of fans, connected to that network of fans? But just, go out there and meet people and then collaborate with them or create things for them, but just get out there.
So I guess that goes to the follow-up question on that is probably going to be the similar answer. If you were to start a network today, knowing how many different networks you've worked with, how many different networks you've started, what would be the key things that you would implement to start a network today?
Clarity of vision, clarity of audience, and then just meeting the crap out of everybody. Like, just really meet and greet and talk to everybody, because everybody is just an expert in something, and you're going to walk away with something wonderful. But no, yeah, making sure that there's the clarity of, what you're making and who you're making it for.
Recording we did earlier before talking with you, you guys will be able to listen. It's Amy Lynn's episode, and it's interesting because she's 6 months in currently at this recording time of starting her network. And I'm like, look, 6 months from now, your network might change. But understanding the clarity, she's like, all right, the network may evolve, but the clarity of the message of why I'm doing this, the operation may change, the way I make money may change, but to your point, have the clarity of what is this standing for?
Yeah. I mean, media has changed so much in the past 6 months, let alone 6 years.
Right.
And people are going to want to listen to different things. They're going to want to watch different things. They're going to want to read different things. They read transcripts of podcasts. It counts. But knowing who you're talking to and knowing how you're going to talk to them is so important. Yeah. Be open to that change. And be constant with the evolution. But,
So where do you see the evolution of podcasting? I mean, you mentioned you guys are doing video and video. Everyone's talking about video. I mean, this show is now on Apple Podcasts, so for video, but we're just doing two talking heads, so that's an easy thing to do.
Sure.
But for scripted content, that's a little different.
Sure.
But where do you see the medium going in the future?
I mean, Apple has had video podcasting for a very long time. And so there's always been video. I worked at Comedy Central when we made a podcast out of The Daily Show. And The Daily Show was a TV show first. And so there's always been a different interpretation. A show is a show is a show. Just, knowing how you make it and who you're making it for, that's what's really important. There's so many podcasts were radio. Before they were radio, they were stage programs. And so it's a show. It's a story. How do I see things evolving? The micro dramas are a big deal. But again, that's an evolution. That's a new app. It's a new technology. And so how are we going to evolve how we engage with our storytelling? It depends on the technology. When there's a new technology, there's going to be a new means of consuming. Are we going to be watching TV shows that are made completely by AI, or are we going to do something that is very, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been a trend that I've been noticing over and over again. It could just be my circles, but the younger generation is very interested in physical media now. I've been hearing again and again people asking for DVDs and CDs.
The 90s are back.
Yeah. And so there is media consumption comes and goes. There's going to be trends. But there's also something for niche interests growing. And so I think podcasting is growing because whatever your niche interest is, there's a podcast about it. And people being more individual with what they like, there's more options. There's no more like huge monoculture. People are getting into CDs again. People are getting into scripted fiction. Having a niche, having a clarity and strength in loving what you love because it's what defines you. I think that's just going to become more valuable. I think there's going to be a huge need for live entertainment, in-person entertainment. I think that's going to grow in value as things can become so digital and impermanent, and being able to see someone in person is going to be huge. That's not a prediction. It's just a guess.
So do you see, where does live come in with GZM?
We have a game show, and so we have the ability to have live game shows there. We have a quiz show that we're working on, and so we're trying to implement and just sort of stretch our horizons beyond just the scripted fiction that we're making, but we're trying to do more.
Could you do, I mean, we both got to enjoy a live fiction recording at Podcast Movement.
Yes.
Would you see yourself doing that? You know, shout out to Table Read, and they did a great job there. Could you do that with your child actors or whoever the SAG actors and do a live recording of your shows that way?
I don't see why not. And thank you again for the introduction to Table Read, by the way. That was very kind. You did a great job introducing them.
Shout out. Love those guys.
Yeah, they were great. But no, you're right. You know, having people do, like, I think Table Read is at the top of the Apple charts precisely because they can show them through video reading and being there and reading it for the first time. You can hear them flub and get a direction to do a retake. And it's also accessible because people know what a table read is. And so they can listen to it knowing, oh, I know what movies are. I know actors have to read the script, but it's fully sound designed. There's a score. They get great names. They got Mark Hamill, for crying out loud. And so, like, I think what they're doing is a fantastic bridge for what people understand to be TV, for what people understand to be film, and for what podcasting is, which is very authentic, very honest, very full of mistakes and human. And so having that sort of human interaction, but still reading a script, having acting, having the skills that you work on for a lifetime caught lightning in a bottle, like they do in that one table read, is great. And so, yeah, I think that's definitely a way.
I think that's I think we see, as you've pointed out, live being a bigger piece. We all want to get beyond the screen. So, but I think, as you've just pointed out, the error in the humanity of not being perfect is okay. And I think that's what makes the live experience that great. You get the outtakes, you get the reaction, you get the humor of the crowd as they laugh and cry with whatever's going on. So if anyone's listening, I think networks or podcasters, like, look at how you do live. And I've told my podcasters all the time this, like, go call up any bar or restaurant going, hey, can I just bring, they'll be happy to have you come there and go just do a recording, especially on a low, like, Wednesday night. It's like, all right, there's nothing going on here.
Why not?
As you mentioned, you've got game shows. You think about how many have trivia nights and how many bars and restaurants are always trying to pull people in for a trivia night. Podcasting is just another trivia night opportunity where you go like, hey, how do we bring someone in? And we know mics and the equipment are relatively inexpensive to get recording. I mean, you could go down the expensive route like Nomono and what they were using for table read there. But yeah, I think that's a huge opportunity that you've pointed out and I see as well.
I think it's great. And I think the one thing that the GZM network, they are doing a great job doing an independent version of scripted with actors and sound design. We don't have huge funding. We don't have huge teams, but they've been able to take this niche medium that is very high touch, high concept, high work, and make it accessible and make it grand. And so you can have that Pixar movie in your car. You can have that huge Indiana Jones moment in your ears, and it's great. Technology is making it so that people who have focus and vision can really do some outstanding things with just a small team and a big dream.
Are we looking at, from a budget standpoint, like what's realistic for people to do fiction content? Is that a $50,000 budget? Is it a $100,000 budget? And does that mean if we go down the monetization, like from an ad sales standpoint, you're like, all right, in order for me to cover and profit on this, like this is a great idea, and we could use the power of the network to help us grow this show when we launch something. But we're still looking at, I don't know, a $50,000, $100,000 sunk cost into this vision.
I mean, I am very lucky that I came to GZM at the later side of their 10-year journey. But no, at the very beginning, it's sunk costs because you don't have clear. It's more expensive than just 2 microphones and someone going to a bar and recording there. And so it takes time, it takes real production, and it takes real costs. But you can still do it with friends. You can still do it with passion and for fun and to grow. And you can do it like, what was it? That was the... forgetting it now. But when Gimlet first started, they had a lot of independent podcasts that they were just doing things on shoestring budgets. And, that's what their startup podcast was all about. And it was a startup company, and they got seed money, and then they grew, and then they got bought by Spotify, and Bob's your uncle. That's the end of their story. But, it's going to be expensive for scripted fiction. But if you're just an independent creator and you have friends and you have actors, just write, just record, just edit, just do it. It's great. I wasn't always working for major networks before I was doing podcasting. I was doing independent videos for Channel 101, which was an independent video creator community and network started by Dan Harmon and Rob Schraub out in California. And it was just about filmmakers and comedians making videos every month and then sharing them with a live audience and voting on what comes next and then making another episode. And so that was a different network of, filmmakers and comedians. And we just did it. We didn't get paid for it. And everybody can get the technology and means to just make your art and then find your audience and then find your voice and then make a business.
I think that goes to the independent creators mentality and storytelling. And is if we look at that's ultimately the message you're giving, Jeremy. Yeah. It's like, do good work, have fun, be passionate about it, tell good stories, find your people, and at the end of the day, everything's a grind no matter what. So Constantly. Be happy that you're grinding because you're at least doing it and it was something you love.
And then find more people who love it too. And then you will create a network, and then you have a fan base, and then that helps to bring you more listeners, and then you can create a network and community of listeners.
Or wherever the audience is, right?
Whatever the audience of the future might be. It might be everybody or nobody. I don't know. Might be an audience of one. But, if you can make a business out of it, then great. If you can, pay the bills to keep writing, pay the bills to keep recording, if you can pay the bills to keep making something, do it.
So is GZM releasing new shows?
Oh, yeah.
Or
they've got lots of new shows.
New stuff.
They've got 6 Minutes, which comes out weekly. Like I said, that's bringing in about a million downloads a month. They've got The Big Fib, which is
an existing show.
It's an existing show. They've got The Big Fib, which is a game show. They've got a new season of Do Good coming out in the late summer, early fall. They've got Earth Rangers coming out bi-weekly. They've got a show called They've got a new show called Ruby Tooth Fairy Detective, They also have a behind the scenes, sort of like a director's commentary show called GZM Rewind, where they, behind the scenes director's commentary on their big shows. They've got a lot. They've got a lot going on. And then their other shows, their beginning, middle, and end, like 1, 2, 3 seasons of certain shows. They've got a huge catalog of programming.
But nothing, they're in the development on new stuff.
Yep, they're developing new stuff as well. Another new scripted fiction show that I don't want to divulge
no worries.
The title of. And then another sort of like quiz show, game show. So like they're in development for audio. They're in development for other partnerships and other IP to be spun off.
And so to the earlier comment, if we're slowly developing, but you're at 35 shows, you would still then tell everyone, like, look, go slow, start slow, build that audience. There's no reason to expand to 100 shows in the network just for the sake of having you to have more inventory to sell.
I mean, it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is, I want scale so that I can bring a huge audience to an agency and sell, then that's your singular goal. If your goal is to make a consistent curation of shows so that you have a message that you care for, cherry pick what shows you want because you care about the message you want. But again, it's individual goals, business goals, artistic goals. But just make sure you have the goal.
You said the clarity.
Yeah, that's the clarity part.
Well, you've mentioned a bunch of shows that we've listed on the GZM network.
Yep.
What's one show that you think people should listen to that's not part of the GZM network that is underappreciated?
Show I was listening to today is called Sherlock & Co. It's a scripted fiction show based out of the UK. And it's basically a modern interpretation of Sherlock and Watson, but they're podcasters. And I love it. It's great. They incorporate the storytelling through really great production design. Watson, instead of writing books, he's making podcasting, and it's done in a way where like he has an opener, he has ads, he has shout outs, but it's sprinkled throughout the story. You can hear the fumbling of the microphone. And so they have the fabricated authenticity of a real podcast written out, and it's very clever. And if you like Sherlock Holmes, if you like podcasting, you're going to like the show. It's called Sherlock & Co.
So like only murders in the building, but...
Yes, that's a great way. That's a good foot in the door. Yes. Yeah. But they're running around London. So
and it's Sherlock Holmes, so the humor of those two. And it seems that IP right now is incredibly hot as I think about how many different shows on TV at least are following the Sherlock story. Yeah,
it's a great, it's wonderfully written, it's wonderfully acted. Huge shout out to the people, Goalhanger, who I think they're part of that network. Yeah, it's great. It's something I've been subscribed to and followed for a long time.
There you go. Well, everyone complains that there's too many podcasts out there, which you and I both know is not true. Which
too
is
many
why
TV
I always
shows. There's too many movies.
Exactly.
There's too many plays out there. Shakespeare should have only written 5. Like, too many paintings. But
and so that's why I have this follow up: is what's one book? Because everyone's like, you didn't throw it out, but like everyone's like, no one complains that there's too many books.
That's right.
So why we complain about too many podcasts? So what's one book that's whether it's something that's been part of your life, something that you always go back to? You name any book that you want.
Okay. What's one book that I go back to? I can't
answer the question. Just one book in general that you want to recommend to people.
So my 11-year-old recommended a book. It's a young adult fiction. Seems very apt considering GZM's young adult audio fiction. The Dragon Ship series. I've got it right here. I don't know if you have to blur it out if you're going to be using any of this video, but it's called The Rise of Neptune, the Dragon Ship series, Last Dragon on Mars. And it's just fun. I'm reading it because my 11-year-old said, "Dad, you have to read it." And it's fun. It's like, hey, what if dragons had spaceships and things were on Mars? It's great. It's fun. It's a fun little read, and I get to talk to my 11-year-old about it. And my spouse read it as well. And if anything, it's a nice way of connecting and being a part of my son's life.
And now you reach out to the author or the publisher and go like, hey, how do we turn this into a podcast? Right? How do we license it?
Very easy. I can already know how the production would be done. Sound design would be fantastic. I'm sure it would be a great podcast, but I'm pretty sure they're probably going to talk to Disney about making it a movie first. Yeah.
Do you see that actually being because podcasting's a hot thing and it's lower production, but everyone's like, I want this Disney, the Disney dollars. Disney. If you're working in the scripted fiction, reading your 11-year-old's books, are you thinking about, hey, when I go to the bookstore, what book of these could I go license, or who could I bring in? Or
I do not.
Or no, because they're probably going to CAA and their CAA is trying to license it to someone far larger than a GZM.
I think if they're already in the publishing with like the Penguin and any of those major
Simon and Schuster or whatever,
they already have an agent. The agent already has a connection to another person. But, there's still plenty of indie works out there. I still love reading a lot of indie comic books or a lot of indie blogs. Do they still call them blogs? But still, I think whenever there's an early idea that isn't already a part of a larger network connection through an agency or publisher, I think about like, oh, this would be great. And I'll, introduce them to the top folks here at GZM.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, my book is usually The Return of Kurz, Brian Berman behind me.
I didn't ask. Hey, Greg, what book would you recommend?
You don't have to ask me. I'm the host. I get to literally just do it myself.
Hey, Greg, what's one podcast you would recommend talking about?
Funny you should ask. I have a newsletter, and every Monday I list 3 podcasts on my LinkedIn that talks about new podcasts. The nice thing is the ones you recommend, I put into the show notes, but then I throw into the newsletter to give more people more ways to get discovery of podcasts, whether it's your network or just the ones that you're recommending as a whole.
God, that must be exhausting having to read and listen to so many podcasts, constantly have 3 to recommend every week. Do you have time to breathe?
I don't do repeats for the most part.
That's
right?
Amazing.
So and I'm a terrible customer of yours. Not that I'm a child who has kids or whatever, right? But like, I don't do fiction in that
Fiction's
regard.
hard.
So
it's a niche. It's hard. And just to be clear, we have a lot of stuff that is good for kids and families, but a lot of our stuff is like young adult fiction. So think Harry Potter, think Star Wars, think Indiana Jones, think Catching Fire, and the trilogy of whatever her name is.
Yeah, I'm blinking.
Thank you. But you get the point.
Aberdeen.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Right. We're gonna be cut all of this. Just get straight to the end. Make us look like we're geniuses. Of course we know what we're talking about, but no, like, Star Wars is, a family movie. And so there's so many things like Pixar, like tell any huge Pixar fan that they're watching a kid's movie and they'd be like, well, actually the writing is quite amazing. And they've won several Academy Awards. So just because a lot of the stuff that GZM does is family friendly, I'll tell you this, it's brand safe. It's not for kids. And so it's great. And that's why we started, we have the brand GZM, but we actually just started a sub network. We have GZM Shows, which is all of our scripted fiction, but we have GZM Junior to help really show like that's for the kids. GZM Shows is just great storytelling for everybody.
I noticed that looking at the website and your list of shows, some have the GZM Junior logo, like Nick Jr., some have GZM, and some have no. So what made you guys decide, and what makes a network decide some shows have our brand on it and some don't have our brand on it?
We are working on putting our branding on everything. It's just sort of a slow roll. So GZM Junior for the younger shows so that people know like, oh, this is that. And then the GZM logos going on all of our shows.
Would you recommend to any network operator that they should do that? I mean, you guys are 10 years in, so you're just starting that. But like, would that be something if you were to start today, have your logo on all the shows that are part of the network so that it brings the community together? Going back to the way you were talking about a network, like you should have, how would I know this is part of that vibe, that environment, that the community that you're already talking to?
Exactly that. It's, in your network should have a consistency to it. And so that consistency, a certain look, a certain sound, a certain vibe. And so we're trying to make sure that, our shows have always had a very specific look to the art, but, now we can make sure that it has a little extra logo in the corner so we know how to guide the listener to show them that they're going in the right direction. We like to help with the signposting so that they are curated exactly where they want to go. So yeah.
So if I was a solo podcaster, I should, and in networks like, look, we're going to put our logo on there. As a solo podcaster, I should go like, yeah, that would be great, so that I know that I'm building off of why I'm joining your network in the first place.
Well, yeah. Then if you know who you're making your art for, they want to have that association, if you're a comedy fan, you want to see that Big Money Players logo on it. It's like, oh, that's going to be funny just with that site association, that branding. That way, when you're making something for someone, they can find you faster. They can help with the dotted lines to getting to trust quicker. But yeah, no, branding. And if you're making a podcast, how does it sound? But you still need to have that visual element, the cover art, the logo, corner, the brand. And then also when you're having a network, how do you communicate in between the shows? How do you share your network in between shows with promos, with ads, 30 seconds, 60 seconds? How do you have it in the voice of your show? How do you have it in the voice for the audience? It's a lot of fun stuff to keep in mind.
Well, on that point, anything you'd want to add? Anything else you want to share that we haven't kind of talked about here?
Gosh, no. I think I've gone above and beyond. Talked about plenty of nonsense. I don't like the word content. I think that's plenty, right? Let's leave on that.
Storytelling.
Yeah, it's story. It's art.
Jeremy Westphal and the art of storytelling.
Oh, boy. Wow.
What are you, Tigger here?
Yes, absolutely. I'll take any and all Disney character. I'll take a Muppet character. Definitely Looney Tunes over here.
I mean, that's why I've got Ernie on both sides.
That's right.
I'm the Ernie in this relationship.
There we go. I'll be your Bert.
No, she's already over in another room.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, no, I think if you know who your audience is, go to your audience, be authentic to them, get with other artists, creators, make a bigger pool. And then once you make a bigger pool, you can then build a business. And then when you build that business, you can help bring more advertisers. And then you can try to make really good ads for those advertisers and connect them authentically, honestly, to the listeners in a way that's like, hey, I've already done a survey with these listeners. I already know they are looking for travel. They're looking for food. They already buy mattresses. And you can just go to those people and say, hey, they are already doing this. And it's less about making money, and it's just about helping connect people. Stick to it. Don't give up. Like it's a long tail. It's not going to be an overnight success. It's going to be an overnight success in over 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.
Perfect way to end this. Likewise.
I don't know if it was perfect. There was a lot of tomfoolery in there.
And that's the joys of podcasting.
There we go. Keep all the flubs in, especially the one when there was about 5 minutes when we were just grasping for what's the name of that book?
Still can't remember it.
Boy.
Jennifer Lawrence. That's about it.
That's it. That's the one. Boy. What are we going to do?
Hunger Games.
That's it. We're hungry for the Hunger Games. That's your opening sting right there.
Well, you've made it this far and really appreciate it. I truly do. Because let's be honest, most of us don't make it this far in a podcast. So as I said at the beginning, if you allow me a few extra minutes to share my thoughts and my conversations with Jeremy, I'd appreciate it. So one of the things I keep coming back to, the beginning is what I said, what really sat at the center of this conversation was storytelling. It's not just a buzzword, but it's the organizing principle for the whole network. Jeremy kept pulling us away from calling it content. For him, it's story that makes the brand matter, the network coherent, and the audiences actually care. It's a pretty sharp contrast to how most podcast companies pitch themselves. The business isn't built around inventory. It's built around belief that narratives, told well, cross formats and can travel beyond RSS feeds. Some other things that stood out to me. What surprised me was Jeremy's hands-on approach to listener surveys. I don't know if you call it that, but he's not looking for standard ad sales insights. He's actively reverse engineering what questions other survey leaders ask, stealing the best parts, layering what partners wish they could know, and using it to tighten the loop between creator, advertiser, and listener. It's not how most networks approach their data, which makes you reconsider what a network actually is providing beyond just the numbers in a dashboard. Second, most networks deploy everywhere and hope for the best. GZM actually goes where their families and young listeners already are. Yoto, Audible, even partnerships with organizations for the blind, or placing stories in physical locations like museums. It changes how you look at reach, not just being everywhere once, but really figuring out everywhere your story can live. It's a different kind of discovery, and it could open doors most podcasters never considered. Third thing, it surprised me how openly Jeremy talked about production cost, risk, and the reality of making scripted fiction. This isn't 2 laptops and a microphone. It's actors, sound design, weeks of work, sometimes thousands of dollars to launch a season. He doesn't pretend it's inaccessible. Instead, there's this underlying attitude. Start small, grow with your people, be ready to wear every hat, and let the network evolve around actual audience demand, not just revenue targets. It's where things get risky for creators, but also where opportunity starts. Once again, thank you for tuning in. To all of you that have given me that 5-star review on Apple, I appreciate it. As I say, life is about time and relationships. You have no clue where one conversation is going to take you. That's why I'm able to have these conversations and have this show. That's why I love networking. You have no clue where listening to these conversations will take you now or in the future, but I can guarantee you your future self will thank you for tuning in. I live on LinkedIn. Reach out. Let's talk. To those of you who have already done so, it has fueled a conversation that I could only have imagined this show of driving. I have a newsletter that promotes podcasts because podcast discovery is really difficult. You'll find it on my LinkedIn. Subscribe, and hopefully you'll find some other shows that are interesting for you. Lastly, subscribe where you listen on any platform. New episodes come out on Thursday. Until next time, I appreciate you.